the 3 B's to prevent BS. The first one, be open. Being open with your partner requires vulnerability. And a lot of people don't know what vulnerability is. People think vulnerability is being weak, but it's actually being strong. The reason why vulnerability is being strong, because when you're vulnerable, you're putting yourself out there to be hurt. You're putting yourself out there to be protected. You're putting yourself out there for either a good or a bad outcome. So in other words, I think of being vulnerable as just jumping off the ladder and seeing if the parachute is going to open or not. And I like to listen to a lot of business videos. So Grant Cardone is somebody who I listen to a lot. And he always has a saying about, if you're going to lose the deal, lose it early so you're not wasting your time. Being open with your partner is going to prevent lying, because if they don't like what they hear when you're in the dating phase or the courtship phase, then you both can move on without wasting your time. So being open and being vulnerable prevents you from lying and wasting your time, because if you're going to lose the deal or the attraction is going to dissolve eventually, let's let it happen sooner than later. The next B, be empathetic. When you're empathetic with your partner, they're going to be less likely to lie to you, because they know they don't have to be perfect. And that's something that my wife and I, we encounter a lot of. We did that at the beginning. She was very empathetic with my imperfections. Before, I became a clinician and we met young. We were like 19 when we met. So I would boast myself up or attempt to say things that weren't true. And it would be something like a job I was working, how much money I was making, for example. And one day I came to her and I said, you know what? I usually tell, women this story about how much money I'm making and how well I'm doing in school, because I was in college at the time. I said, with you, I'm almost flunking out of my classes. I'm working a fast food job, and I don't have it like that, but I will one day. And from being open with her, she was able to provide me the empathy, and she grabbed my hand and she was like, well, let's do it together. And in that moment, she showed me that when I present my authentic self to her, that was good enough. So being empathetic with your partner can prevent them from lying or trying to give you or show you their representative. The last B is be forgiving. Being forgiving doesn't look like being naive. It looks like using moments to create rules for next time. So when my wife and I first moved into the house together, an apartment, I'll never forget. So she had cooked dinner, and we had a child at the time, my firstborn, and he was like 1.5. So she cooks dinner. I sit down, I eat my plate, leave the plate there, leave all the dishes, immediately get up and cut the football game on. And my wife looked at me like, no, he didn't. So she taught me, no, Chris, we're a family. When you finish eating, you make sure that you go to the dishes and get those clean. You make sure that the table's wiped off, sweep the floor. And you also then look at what other tasks need to be done. Are there clothes that need to be folded on the table? Does our son need to get a bath? What else do we need to do? You don't just get up from the table and go do you. You're a family unit. She was forgiving in that moment. She knew that I was not married before. I didn't have a family structure that produced those behaviors. We were growing up as children. We kind of fend for ourselves. So my wife forgave the action and used it as an opportunity to teach me what she expected and how she wanted our family to be. And because she was forgiven, it led me to not want to lie or keep things from her. But at the same time, she still held me accountable. So being forgiven doesn't look like being naive. It looks like giving your partner an opportunity to be accountable by showing them what you expect and what you need.